Sorry, I just love this song. I just rediscovered this song this week. This is Twist of Fate by Olivia Newton-John. She did a movie with John Travolta after Grease. It's probably like two. So she made after Grease's popularity, they made this. Come on, shut down. They made this movie called Twist of Fate, which is actually one of the most bizarre 1980s sort of films in a genre that sort of was in the early 80s. And it's a modern day one, so it's not like Grease, but they had such good chemistry. They decided they wanted to do another movie together. And it's sad that I actually saw this in the movie, not in the movie theater. I saw this on cable, I believe. But so basically, I think they meet cute, like go on a date or something, but they don't like each other, and enters a body and helps get Olivia Newton-John safe or something like that. So we'll see what happens. I just saw something that I haven't seen in a long time. Looks like the unstableness of the internet is back, so we'll see how long that lasts and how long we can keep it up for that. But this is Dylan Knows, episode 350. Release a Dylan cut. I'll explain that in a second. But to finish my Twist of Fate thought, that was around the same time as Oh Heavenly Dog, and then there was the one that Gary Coleman played, like an angel who came down or ghost, something that helped somebody, and it was all part of the whole Oh God thing with George Burns. So it was one of those crazy, genre things that happened in the early 80s sort of thing. So. But today's episode 350 is Release a Dylan cut. I'm going to go off on the Snyder cut of Justice League, which is finally going to be released by HBO Max. I'm going to talk about Baltimore County. There are some changes to the Batwoman TV show. Comic books returned. Is Revenge of the Sith better than Endgame? Memorial Day weekend. Pokemon Go. Starbucks is all over the place in this episode. Crazy science stuff. Also considering parallel universes discovered over Antarctica, or are they? Stupid stuff that the administration did. Add floods to the 2020 apocalypse. Some, as I said, Pokemon Go stuff, the new Tenet trailer, and some Tenet news, or rather, I should say, Christopher Nolan news. Some Fortnite news. Kinky Spirals and Russian holes. You have to see what that is. A vegan donut. What's going on with Pluto? Hockey might be coming back sooner than you think. Same with basketball. Some deaths, a couple big ones, I guess, this week. But Starbucks all over the place. Shots, alcohol coming up. Memorial Day weekend is this weekend, so let's go drinking. What's going on in Area 51? Let's see what else. Got some new pops announced, some new food announced, new Clue announced, some 40-year-old anniversary this week. And you can join the reality show Labor of Love, and help impregnate a 41-year-old woman. Yeah, we'll talk about that as well. Virtual snow days, which is kind of weird. Tampa Bay Comic-Con Go, which is a bad idea, but that's besides the point. Sex with Animals is back in the news. Woohoo! It's been a while. And Samuel Jackson is now the third filthiest mouth actor in Hollywood. No longer number one. Who beat him? Find out. So we got a lot of really interesting stuff to talk about this week. A lot of really interesting things to talk about this week. So first, we're going to talk about comic books return this week. May 20th was the date that Diamond Comics had circled to release comic books to the wild again. And sure enough, they did. Marvel is the only one that didn't come out this week because they had pushed to next week. So Marvel Comics will start coming out starting next week. But we had some DC and some Image and some other stuff come out this week. This coincides with what's going on in Baltimore County. Last week, I told you that the governor of Maryland basically put Maryland in phase one, saying that stores get to 50% capacity, hair salons could reopen and stuff like that. However, he said, but we'll leave it to the county execs to decide if they want to follow this or not. So the Baltimore County exec said, no, I still think it's too early to do all this stuff. So he said, curbside is still going to be available. We will open, stores, but you can only get stuff curbside. You can't go into the stores, and only 10 people are going to be allowed to be in the store, including employees at the same time. That includes hair salons as well. So we got through that, and then basically, I think they said this week, late this week, like Wednesday. No, it was like Wednesday or Thursday-ish. The Baltimore County exec said, okay, we've gotten our PPE and our tests to the pharmacies, and we have a free test bait. You don't need an appointment anymore. So anyone who wants a test in Baltimore County can now get a test. That looked good. They said the numbers have still been going down. So they said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to open up the stores, but again, only keeping to 10 people in the store or hair salon, employees included. And curbside is still going to be available for food only, and you're still going to need to wear a mask, and churches are still going to be closed. So Baltimore County exec eased a little bit of their thing. So my comic book store, it took them a day, but today they opened up for people to come in and look around. They are having only 3 people come in at a time, and you get to squirt some hand sanitizer on your hand. And you can only go and look at the new comic section or the comic wall in the back. You can't look at the trades or back issues or all that stuff unless and if you want to, you're gonna have to get a employee to help you. So that's good. I might swing by there tomorrow. I don't know. I'm also drinking Rainbow Unicorn Bang, and it's very peach bubblegum flavor, so not the greatest again. They look good when I got them, but I'm probably not going to get them again. So we'll see what happens. But that's like peach bubblegum is like the flavor that is. Revenge of the Sith had its 15th anniversary. This 15th anniversary this week was released 15 years ago this week. And someone decided to throw out the clickbait that is Revenge of the Sith better than Avengers Endgame. And a lot of debate about that came up over the wires. And actually, I really don't like either movies, to be honest. I have problems with both of them. I don't think one is better than the other. I don't think they're even the best ones in the series, obviously. So I sort of stepped away from that. But that argument is still out there now. So go at it if you want to, and do whatever you want to do with that. Okay, I did that already. So Memorial Day weekend is this weekend. So a lot of people have the essential employees have off this week, or off Monday, I should say. Schools are going to be closed on Monday. They're not going to be doing any of the online learning on Monday. So they're actually going to have a 3-day weekend. Again, it seems weird. It doesn't feel like it, obviously, being in quarantine right now, and also having not worked in over 60 days. It feels really weird for me. But it is Memorial Day weekend. It felt like it today, 80 plus degrees here in Baltimore. It's going to drop down to 66 tomorrow. So we're going to drop about 14 degrees tomorrow. So should be interesting. So we'll see what happens. So go out there, if you have a grill, grill some stuff up. I'm supposed to get a new grill for my birthday / Father's Day. We'll see if that actually happens. I'll have to look at my grill. My grill is a mess right now, but I may decide to do something about it. And there's going to be some stuff I'll do as well to try to get at least my wife excited about Memorial Day, since she actually has off. She hasn't had off for a while, so that's good. Baltimore City Council has shut down all summer events through August 31st. It includes Artscape, which is our summer big event in Baltimore City, 4th of July parades and fireworks, and stuff like that. So that's all stuff that's being shut down. Probably means maybe some farmers markets that usually happen around that time might be shut down, or at least lessened a little bit. So that's going to be an interesting little take on things. 2,000-year-old smartphone-like object was discovered by archaeologists in Tuva, Russia. So it looked like a cell phone. So again, proof that maybe there is some alien species has come to see us and had technology from the old days with them. Lots of weird stories are going to be coming up all this whole episode, like they were the last few weeks. I finished another book this week, Tip and the Gipper, written by Chris Matthews, another history that I haven't known much about. It was about Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, who was the Democratic Speaker of the House. And Ronald Reagan was obviously the President of the United States from 1981 to 1988. So, I'm sorry, till 1988, yep. Maybe, I guess you could say 89 technically, because George Bush took over January 20th, 1989, after he won the election in 1988. So, but basically it was about how government used to work. It doesn't anymore because of the morons down there now. And how, a Democrat and Republican who despised each other's only due to their beliefs could actually become friends after working hours and actually became really, really close friends. But when it came to work, they didn't let their friendship, get in the way of that. They did business, and they yelled and screamed and cursed and did stuff to each other to screw each other out of it. But in the end, they still became friends. But it was a time where partisanship actually works. Where bipartisanship, I should say, works, where the Republicans worked with the Democrats to pass legislature that made sense to everybody, not just certain groups, not Republicans, not Democrats, but to everybody. Really interesting. As I said, I grew up during that era. I was the age of 8 to 15 during that period of time. So I really wasn't paying much attention to politics at that time. Obviously, I knew about, when Reagan got shot in 81. I knew about the Challenger explosion in 86, which wasn't really a government's fault. But other than that, and I knew about the Iran-Contra hearings, and that was really about it. I mean, there might have been some other stuff that I had heard about, but it never really registered because I was too busy playing with my Transformers, my G.I. Joes, and reading my comic books and stuff like that. So I didn't pay much attention to that. But this actually helped, fill in some of the blanks and showed when government used to actually work with bipartisanship, when you had two career politicians who were very similar in their beliefs, despite being on opposite sides of the party, would come together, and some would have great victories and some would have excruciating defeats, and then it would reverse, and the other person would have great victories, the other one would have excruciating defeats, and it was just a whole interesting look at politics in the 1980s. Now I'm back. Actually, I've been reading more in the past now. I've been stuck in the 1800s for a while, so I thought I'd do a 1980s story. And Zoe said, "Oh, what should I do for next one? Let's talk about the 1700s." So I'm currently reading Brad Meltzer's The Plot to Kill George Washington, something like that. It was about a little-known assassination plot to kill George Washington from within his own inner circle just before the English army arrived in New York City in 1776, and about a month before the Continental Congress released the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776, basically saying the United States has been formed and we are now our own country. And that basically set off the Revolutionary War. Interesting so far. I'm actually almost done it. So we'll have a little mini review about that next week. Brad Meltzer also wrote a book about the plot to kill Lincoln, which was not the one that you thought that actually did kill him at the end of the Civil War. There was actually one right after he got elected president. He took a train from Indiana to Washington, and it was along that, and stopped at all these different cities. And there was a plot that he was going to try to get assassinated by a group of people in one of those cities. And that story is going to detail that and how it was stopped. Since that just literally just came out recently, I haven't bought it yet. I think I might pop that into my Amazon queue and pick that up this week. Probably I won't necessarily would read it because it get me back in the 1800s, but I've got a couple other options after this. I might read a book about the Secret Service dogs, or I might delve into more 17s stuff with the book Valley Forge. So we'll find out. You'll find out next week. which will be actually, damn, no, it won't be June 1st. I was like, oh, it'll be June 1st. No, it'll be May 30th. So that'll be, not quite June. So we still got another May episode of Dylan Knows before we get into the greatest month of the year, June. So some interesting news in the world of the DC television and movie world. First up, Ruby Rose, who actually was really good as Batwoman in the CW TV show, is leaving the role after only one season. It had been renewed for another season, but she is leaving. A replacement is now being sought. No reason is really given why. There's been a few here and there that she was unhappy with the way the shoots were. There was some other stuff that got in there as well. There've been about 3 actresses now who've thrown their name into the rings, including a Brooklyn Nine-Nine actress, and a couple other actresses. So we'll see how that all works out. Obviously, we're not going to really get into that stuff until next year, since the CW is not going to be releasing any of their new shows until 2021 anyway. So we'll see how that goes. So we'll follow that up. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant now. I have not been the biggest fan of Zack Snyder, the director. I liked his Watchmen, but I found his Man of Steel to be severely lacking. I found his Batman vs. Superman to be extraordinarily lacking and absolutely horrific and terrible. Yes, it is as terrible as you think it is. And then when he said he was going to do Justice League, I was like, great. So then when he was filming it, he had Dude Bro, Aquaman, and Jason Momoa, who's a good actor, but not for my Aquaman. He had a terrible Ezra Miller as the Flash, playing Peter Parker, basically. The Flash is not Peter Parker, people. And they had Ben Affleck playing Batman, who couldn't be any more boring as Batman. Gal Gadot was really the only one who played a good Wonder Woman. And then they had, I forget the actor's name who played Cyborg, didn't really mean much to me, but he had plans for this big, magnificent, huge storyline, and it was going to be a huge movie. It was going to be bigger than the Avengers, stuff like that. And then tragedy hit. His daughter, unfortunately, killed herself, which is a tragedy. And DC decided to put Joss Whedon on, since he did his magic with the Avengers. He may as well put him on the Justice League, since he has experience with that, and had to rewrite the script and sort of did away with some of what Snyder had done and made his own film and released it, and it wasn't that good. And so the Dude Bros, who love Zack Snyder, started yelling and screaming, and it's the SJW, stuff like that, were screaming and yelling about and the Ethan Van Sciver idiots and the Comicsgate morons were screaming and yelling, we need the Snyder cut of Justice League. We know it exists. Snyder has said it before that, we want to see his version of it with Darkseid and dark-suited Superman and all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's out there, and release the Snyder cut. It became a hashtag, and then when people even tried to go up against them, they were rude, insufferable, much like the Bernie Bros were probably the same type of people. They were just pure assholes about the whole thing, and yelling and screaming and hating on everything that we did. So the only thing that's good is going to be the Zack Snyder cut of it. And so it became a huge hashtag, and people kept screaming about it over and over and over again. Release the Snyder cut became a hashtag, so on and so forth like that. And so after a few years, after Zack Snyder's gotten back to his life and has gotten through his tragedy as best he can, he started seeing this, and for whatever reason, he started pushing it more himself. So he would add, these are some behind the scenes pictures of what was going to be in my stuff, and he put all pictures of stuff that he had planned and stuff like that. And the Dude Bros like, oh, we need to see it. Come on, we need it. And they were screaming and yelling. And then when HBO Max was announced, they said that, it was rumored that HBO Max was going to offer the Snyder cut as one of their first films. The problem is there was no Snyder cut, but Zack Snyder decided he was going to push on it because he was getting the attention lavished on him, and he was still, I guess, reeling from the terribleness of his other movies. And so, and maybe it was a way to recover from his tragedy, but still, he was pushing and pushing. He jumped in with the Dude Bros and became just as insufferable as them, and kept egging them on and stuff like that. So eventually, Warner Brothers, I guess that's who it was, and HBO said, there's obviously something there, so we should probably, if we can actually get a Snyder's Cut and release it through HBO Max, we might get all these people to come sign up and make a ton of money and give Netflix and Amazon a run for their money and so on and so forth. It's all about the almighty dollar in the end. So they contacted Snyder and said, all right, let's do this. So Snyder requested $20 million to do reshoots and to add scenes to the film, and he's going to be rewriting the script to make it more, I guess, for the times. Now, does anybody else have a problem with that? Because for the longest time, they were screaming and yelling that the cut already exists. It did not exist. Not at all. Maybe in Snyder's head, but there was no actual physical Snyder cut of the Justice League movie. Yet he was egging it on, and so were the morons who were talking about it, were egging it on. To release it. We know it's there. It wasn't there. And then HBO and Warner Brothers saw it. It's like, oh, well, we better do something about it because they're screaming and yelling about this. And the Justice League tanks. So if we can, get them to make money, maybe we can get some money back on this. Not thinking in mind that the reason why Justice League tanked is because it was terrible. Not just because of Joss Whedon, but because the casting was all wrong. With the exception of Gal Gadot, as I mentioned before, she was perfect. But Ben Affleck as Batman, no. Not good. Not good at all. Jason Momoa, love you, Jason Momoa, not as Aquaman. No. Now, that's sort of changed a little bit because I haven't seen Aquaman yet, but people say how great it is. I'm still not the biggest fan of Jason Momoa's Aquaman because it's not Aquaman. Ezra Miller is just absolutely terrible. That's not the Flash at all. He's awful, terrible. Blah! And then, Henry Cavill's Superman was just dark and depressing. That's not Superman. Superman is bright light and color and happiness and faith and goodness, not dark, brooding stuff. That's freaking Batman. So it's not that's not the reason why the movie failed. The reason the movie didn't fail was because Joss Whedon didn't know. The reason the movie failed was because the characters are wrong. And no one liked it. It still made some money, but it didn't make as much money as they thought it would. So now, Warner Brothers and all is like, oh, well, you know what? We'll give you $20 million. You can make your cut of the movie. So basically, they're telling Zack Snyder to remake Justice League and giving him the money to do it under the onus that we're going to release the Snyder cut, even though it doesn't exist. So when they made the announcement, they're like, okay, we're going to release the Snyder cut. Well, guess what? May 27th is when HBO Max starts. Is the Snyder cut set for that? No, it's set for sometime in 2021 because it hasn't been made yet. It's a freaking remake of the Justice League. It is not a cut that is mysteriously going to appear that has been in the vault forever. It's like, oh, we're going to release it. No, it does not exist. You morons. So now this is a bad sign because now people are going to go, well, if someone's not happy with their release, they can just get the bros on the internet to go and scream and yell and pressure companies to make this film and make money and release this cut of the film, and it's going to take away from the filmmaker's original vision. What about Joss Whedon's vision of it? It might not be the best, but still, you're just tossing it aside like it doesn't exist anymore. They're trashing all their Justice League discs now because they're going to get their cut, and it's going to be so awesome. And here's the problem. It's just like Trump supporters. They're going to see it, and they're going to say how awesome it is, even if it's the biggest load of crap they've ever seen. They're going to say, see, we were right the whole time. This is way better. They're good. I guarantee you, as soon as they see it, if it is just as terrible as the original Justice League, they're going to come out and say how wonderful and how great and how amazing it is. And that's bullshit. Could it be? Absolutely, it could be. But it's not an actual thing that exists yet. It's a $20 million remake that they have footage. They're going to re-edit what Joss Whedon did. They're going to rewrite some screenplay, and they're going to fix the problems that were in the original Justice League. Whedon's Justice League still has Zack Snyder's fingerprints on it. Okay? So now he's going to say, well, it didn't work, so I'm going to change the script. Well, that's not the Snyder Cut. The Snyder Cut is taking what shit you had and releasing that. This wouldn't be as bad if the morons who were supporting it and pushing it and all this stuff were not as offensive as they are and how much of an assholes they are, because that's what's the problem with the internet. Trump supporters, Bernie bros, they're all the same. They can hide behind their avatars and they can scream and yell about how unfair things. They can spout off about conspiracy theories, and then they can go and they can hijack conversations people are actually having. And then they start throwing out racist slurs and calling you morons because they don't know what is going on and they cannot prove anything that they are saying. They just say, well, what about this? Obama did this. Well, no, he didn't. Yes, he did. You're a liar, you stupid libtard. And that's all they do. They don't give proof. And if they do, it's Fox News, which we know is fake news anyway. So I am just absolutely flummoxed. Toxic fandom is terrible, and it's just adding to the immense anxiety and pressure and anger I am feeling about this year so far. This has not been a good year, people, and this is not helping in any way. The movie isn't freaking going to come out until 2021 anyway, and then it's going direct to HBO Max. It's not going to be released in theaters, people. There is no Snyder Cut. He has to make it. He's getting $20 million to remake his movie. That's what it is. Period. Thank you, viewer, who's listening and still watching. I'm sorry I went off on my rant, but I am just sick and tired of all this bullshit. And this doesn't help any. Any goodwill I had towards Snyder, with the fact that he lost his daughter to suicide and the fact he did an okay version of Watchmen, has now gone out the door because he helped push these toxic fan people to get what he wanted, to prove that he is the better director than anybody, that his vision is the only vision for these characters. Now, David Ayer, who did the directing of Suicide Squad, he wants to do an Ayer cut of Suicide Squad now, which will have more of the god-awful Joker they have in there, because he wanted to do more with the Joker, but they cut him out, and for good reason, because he's a terrible Joker. So now you get the flood doors open. People come out of the woodwork. Well, this movie sucked, but I actually have a special cut that hasn't been seen yet that the movie distribution companies wouldn't allow me to cut. So, give me some money and I'll release it. Get the fan base behind it. We'll release it. We'll make the movie that you all want. Yes, we'll do that. Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm done. Well, not with the show. No, I've got other. I'm gonna move on. Is probably the best word right now, because now I'm just in a type of mood right now. Kinky spiral. Why not? Let's talk about some kinky spirals. A kinky spiral points towards a baby planet forming. So, a space telescope discovered what they call a kinky spiral, which the scientists have looked at. It says probably going to be the birth of a new planet. So they're actually going to be able to see an actual birth of a new planet that has never been seen before. So they're got their eyes on the skies at the kinky spiral. So there it is. So that's pretty cool. There's also a Russian hole that is so deep it can suck an airplane out of the sky. That's interesting. It's a little wild and weird to think about, but they actually have pictures of not necessarily an airplane going in, but the size of the hole. And apparently there's something there that can suck airplanes out of the hole. I guess there have been some sort of crashes that have been there before. It's Canadian Air Force. Okay. There's another pit story, but I can't find it right now. So we'll come back to that. Yankee Stadium is going to be to a giant drive-in theater, since there's actually no baseball going on now. Obviously, baseball still might roll in July, but right now they're going to turn it into a giant drive-in theater. So I don't know what they're going to show, since there are no new movies coming out until, at the earliest, I think, sometime in July, and that's Tenet, which is Christopher Nolan's new film, is still sticking to its release date in July. But it's looking more and more like that movie is going to be shipped to the fall. And if that's the case, it should shift. It might make a seismic shift in all the movies that were supposed to come out in August now that might be shifted to later in the year. I don't think that makes sense. I don't think if one movie decides to move, that other movies should, because because July right now has nothing in it except Tenet right now. But August has got the beginnings of the summer movie season, Wonder Woman 1984, I guess, 1985, whatever it's called, and Mulan and a few other ones like that are in August. So that'll be the beginning of the summer season in August, which is the end of the summer season, but that's besides the point. This fall is going to be extraordinarily packed anyway with these films. So even if a film like Tenet decides that they're going to move their release date, it should not cause any other movies to shift theirs because they're in a whole completely different other month. Now, when you get closer to that month, obviously, and it looks like things aren't progressing any better, then you might start thinking about shifting them. But for now, if Tenet decides to move, don't move anything else. Let Tenet go to the late fall around Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever. It's fine, So Christopher Nolan released another trailer for it and still doesn't quite explain exactly about it. Something to do with the main characters are living ahead of time. So they're kind of like time travelers, but they're only time travelers by an hour or so, something like that. And they have the power to see what's going to be coming. It's some weird... Again, it's some weird thing similar to Inception. When he released that, they weren't really trying to explain what it was all about and to get people interested to think about going to see it at the movie theater. It stars I can't think of his name right now. One guy I'd never really known about, and Robert Pattinson, who has this really thick British accent in the film as well. So it could be interesting. So we'll see what happens. Fortnite as well. Christopher Nolan decided to air the trailer in the Fortnite's play area. They have an area now in Fortnite where no guns, no violence no killing is allowed, and it's like Play Royale or something like that, where you can get paint guns and hamburgers and stuff like that, and you can dance, and there's a concert venue. It has concerts, and there's a theater that'll show the trailer. So they showed the trailer there for Tenet, and then Christopher Nolan has also announced that he will be airing one of his movies in full in Fortnite as well. They don't know what the movie is yet, but it is going to be releasing one very soon, showing one. A lot of people think it's either going to be Inception or Dark Knight, because those are the two most obvious ones that aren't too bad when it comes to language and violence and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. They could do Dunkirk. I mean, that was a war film, and it's a war area, so we'll see what happens. Speaking of Fortnite, the countdown to the live Doomsday event and the end of their season has started. The live event will be on May 30th at 2 p.m., which we kind of knew already because the new season of Fortnite begins on June 4th. So it makes sense to have that. But the countdown is happening, so things are starting to happen. So in 1 week, we're going to find out what's going on in Fortnite. Now, obviously, I hadn't played Fortnite for a long time, but I found these stories to be really interesting, the way that Fortnite is run with seasons, and they have specific seasons that have a theme, and then they have a season finale, which changes the map up and some stuff like that, and then a new storyline hits and stuff like that. So when my son started getting involved, I've been watching him, and I actually put it on my phone and stuff like that, and hopefully eventually I'll get a Nintendo Switch. I'll be able to play that on that as well. So we're gonna be talking some Fortnite stuff soon. So we'll find out next week. The Doomsday event, my son is going to want to be there for the 2 p.m. Eastern time live Doomsday event on Fortnite. Will be appearing then. So we'll see what happens then. And it's cool about that is they could be involved in it in some way or another. They have the storyline already set, but they can be, people who are watching things happen and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. with that. Speaking of Nintendo Switch, my wife gave me two choices here. My birthday and Father's Day are right next to each other. So my birthday is June 20th, Saturday, June 20th, which is also the first day of summer. And Father's Day is June 21st this year. Next year, my birthday will be on Father's Day. But my wife knew that I had wanted a Nintendo Switch Lite because originally what I was going to do before I got laid off temporarily, I knew that a lockdown was coming, and I thought that my company might have closed and, we would get pay and stuff like that, and I have to stay at home. I said, well, I'm going to probably buy a Nintendo Switch Lite so that I can ride out the quarantine with this until my job opens. But then I got laid off temporarily, or furloughed, whatever you want to call it. So obviously we're not going to be able to afford it. But eventually I got my unemployment, and then the government decided they were going to add an additional $600 every week to my unemployment. So, we are in pretty good shape money-wise right now. Plus, my wife is still working. She's considered an essential employee. So I've been wanting to get one. I've been checking Amazon regularly because I want to get one. But because of this COVID-19 stuff, the Japanese factories had not been creating them or shipping them out. So there was a delay in getting them. And there are companies that had them, but they were pushing it for like $300, $400, $500, which is way too expensive. $200, between $200 and $300 for me is a good number right now. Anything more than that, it's too much. So gradually I've been noticing on Amazon as things have been lightening up in the world, their Amazon schedules have been lightening up also. I've been ordering books and stuff for my kids and for myself and for my wife and stuff like that. And early on when I was ordering the books, they didn't know when it was going to be delivered. They said it could be delivered by June 4th. And then I ordered it on May 4th, and it said, you'll get it by June 4th. And then I get it May 7th. So there was no guarantee when it was going to come. But that was when you clicked on something that said it might not come till this date. So I still ordered saying, okay, I still want it and stuff like that. But now it's starting to show more along the lines of, because we have primes, like you might be able to get it Sunday. Like I actually ordered 2 more of the Haikyuu manga for my daughter and my wife because they've been reading it. 19 and 20. I ordered that on yesterday. Yeah, I ordered it yesterday. And it's coming tomorrow, Sunday. So that's Prime, basically. So I'll be getting that tomorrow. So that's good on that. So I've been checking, and I was surprised when I saw a gray Nintendo Switch Lite for $199, which if I would have ordered it, it would have come by this upcoming Thursday. I was like, oh, but I was like, I don't know what I should do. So I held off on it, but I put it in my queue. So I checked a few days later, and it's now like $300. I was like, huh? And it says, we don't know when. You might not get it till like June 4th or something like that. I was like, huh? So I go back in and try to do my search on Nintendo Switch Lite, and now they're back to it might come by the end of June or whatever, and now they're up to the $250, $300, something like that. I found one for $299, which is still in stock, and I would get by next Thursday, I guess, if I ordered it now. But that still is like, what happened to the $199 one? Apparently, I guess I didn't act on it quick enough, and they sold out. And now they don't have any more for $199. So now they're forcing these other ones on me right now. But I do have, I said, there's a $299 on my queue. Then there's one for $229, which I think is still there. Let's see if it's still there. And I got to talk to my wife. I say, you know what? I think we can afford for me to get the Switch Lite now and still get my grill for my birthday / Father's Day. Yep, $229.99. It's still in stock right now. Right now, it still is. So it's still in my queue. So if I want to get it sooner than later, I'll have to sit down with her and say, I really want this, but I also want my grill. But I think I can afford to pay for my own Switch. So we'll see what happens. So to be continued on that. Speaking of Haikyuu, I told you I think my wife and daughter have been reading Haikyuu, the manga about a boys volleyball team. It's stroked my daughter's interest in volleyball, so she's been practicing volleyball every day, particularly also with my wife. And it gives them a chance to bond on something. And then my wife discovered that the actual anime is on Netflix. The first 2 seasons are. So they've burned through those. They watched the last episode of the 2nd season today. knowing full well that they were getting close to the end of it a couple days ago, I ordered the third season. It's on Blu-ray right now. We got that pretty quickly again. So it's only 10 episodes. And then the bad news is the fourth season of Haikyuu anime is going to be delayed. Now the manga is still going to be out there. And I said I got her issues 19 and 20, and then they're up to like issue 40 or something like that. I can order them on Amazon if I want to, or if Barnes & Noble is now open back up for limited people in the store, I can go in there and get that as well. So we'll see them. But the anime itself is going to be delayed due to COVID-19 as well. The idiot in Washington has called for churches to reopen, despite the 10th Amendment saying that he cannot force the governors to do stuff. And it doesn't make any sense to open the churches when we're still in the midst of this coronavirus. And what does it matter where you pray in your religion? God is everywhere. So there is absolutely no reason for you to have to go to a church every week to pray when you can pray in your home. You can live stream actual masses. You could live stream the mass from the Pope himself, who is like the guy who's like that guy on earth just before God and Jesus. And that way you can do that. You don't have to go to church. Now, the reason why he's forcing it is twofold, because the crazy religious weirdos out west who claim to be, enlightened and all that stuff are backing someone who Jesus Christ himself would banish from the earth for breaking all the 10 commandments and not being a good person. But they're backing him because he's white. And so he's trying to curry favor with them. And also, he's also all about money, the money that, if you watch from home, you don't give money to the church, and then they can't go and buy their airplanes and their giant cathedrals, with, televisions and, giant boom boxes, stuff like that. So it doesn't make any sense. When you can pray anywhere you want to, any religion you are, you do not have to go into a house of religion to pray in order to pray to God. God is everywhere, and that's what you claim also. So it makes no sense. Also, that idiot's press secretary, trying to make a point about how great of a person he is by giving his paycheck to people, showed his check live on TV that includes his account number and his routing number. So basically, if you freeze framed it and zoomed in on it, you could get his account number and his routing number, and you could steal money from him if you wanted to. So we'll see if someone actually did. I doubt it, but hey. Speaking of that, I talked about Fortnite. Their big event's coming up really soon. Pokemon Go is going to be shutting down from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on June 1st for maintenance. So there's lots of speculation about what that's about. So we'll be unable to access Pokemon Go from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on June 1st. Speculation goes from the obvious, which is what it probably is, that they're changing servers, to people speculating that new items and a new gym system and new programming is being put in that's going to make the game even more streamlined or whatever, or just brand new crazy big event stuff is going to be added to the computer to it during this time. But the majority of people believe, it's probably they've been rumored, and there's talks that we've been following along with them, that they are going to be switching to a bigger server eventually. So this is probably what it is. Tomorrow, Sunday the 24th of May, is Community Day for this month. It is C. Dot, who is a little acorn little creature, and has a pretty interesting evolutionary scale. So that'll be interesting. So tomorrow will be the stay-at-home Community Day from 11 to 6 again. So another like 8-hour one, something like that. Let's see, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 7-hour one. And you'll be able to do everything from home. You put some incense on, and it'll run for a few hours, and you'll be able to, have him spawning all the time. You can catch all the sea dots to your desire you want, and you might get your shinies and stuff like that. So we have that tomorrow, so that'll be interesting as well. So that is what's going on in the world of video game stuff. In the world of sports, hockey, the Hockey Players Association has okayed a 2014 playoff. I guess it's now too late to finish their season. So instead, what they're going to do is they're going to jump right to the playoffs. And so instead of their usual, 8 to 10 playoff spots they're going to have, because of this odd stuff, they are going to say there are 24 teams out of, I don't know how many, they have like 30 some teams. So the teams that suck are not even going to get a chance to be in the playoffs. But the teams that are all sort of bunched together with the same sort of records and all in the same area will be able to do this 24-game playoff, 24-team playoff at a few places. The NBA is also discussing ways to get their basketball back as well. So sports might start trickling back in very soon. So we'll see what happens coming up with that. Universal Studios Orlando is going to be reopening in June. It's going to be the first of the Disney type style places that are going to open. I do not think that means Disney World is going to open. I think only Universal Orlando is. So you will not be able to access Disney World, only Universal Orlando. That's my understanding. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I think that's my understanding about that. Dunkin' Donuts is seeing which way the wind is blowing and noticing all the vegan style hamburgers and chicken that are being put out there now in Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's and Burger King and stuff like that. They've now decided we're going to try to do a vegan style donut. So it'll be a donut that's going to taste like a donut, but is going to be vegan. So I have nothing more to say about that. Good on them, I guess. A zoo in Japan is using stuffed animal capybaras to maintain social distancing in their restaurants and stuff like that. Similar to last week, I was talking about the blow-up dolls and the mannequins in restaurants. Well, now at the Japanese zoo, they're putting stuffed capybaras in the tables to keep people from people at social distancing. So that's kind of cute. In Maryland, I can't find this one right now. There is a restaurant down in Ocean City that is using inner tubes to do your social distancing. So you have to wear an inner tube, big inner tube around you, and give your social distancing there. If I find it, I will mark it off again. So just reading some of the stuff that's upcoming. So you can add floods to the 2020 apocalypse checkoff list, bingo card, whatever you want to call it. In Michigan, a massive amount of rain has caused a dam to burst and caused flooding in Michigan, with water going up as high as 9 feet, which I'm sitting down. I am I'm standing up. I'll be 6 feet. So I can touch the ceiling of my basement with my hand just by standing up. So let's just say this is about 7 feet tall ceilings. So basically 9 feet of water is this whole basement will be flooded, and then additional 2 feet above it into my living room kitchen area would be underwater as well. That's 9 feet of water that has been flooding Michigan. So you have that. You also have a giant fire at Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco. My wife and I went on our honeymoon to Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco, stayed in an awesome hotel right next to Ghirardelli Square, had some great restaurant food along the wharf, walked around the wharf, saw the seals on one pier. We went to Alcatraz, and we did a whole bunch of stuff in San Francisco and Napa and Sonoma, and we did the 25 mile drive, which takes you past Pebble Beach and places like that. But that's kind of a shame that a massive fire has hit Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco. And the biggest cyclone in Bangladesh / Indian history is now presently hitting the country right now. It is the biggest cyclone they have ever seen in history. And of course, it would be in 2020. Again, I can't find that one. When I get to it, I will just go check. So there's that. On a plus side, a YouTube channel a guy decides to create a YouTube channel. This guy's father left him when he was a baby, so he never really had a father figure. So he creates videos about telling kids who have similar issues with their dads, walking out on them. And it's really for anyone, really, but it also helps people whose dads have left them, how to do stuff that your dads are supposed to show you how to do, like how to fix toilets and caulk walls and do wiring and stuff like that. So and fix cars and do your oil change, stuff like that. So it's kind of cool that something like that is happening. Another good news is Denzel Washington helps a homeless man evade oncoming traffic. He saw a homeless man walking in the street. Traffic was coming towards him, and he didn't want anything bad to happen to him, so he ran out of there to save him and was able to save him in that. On that news side, Hertz Rental Cars is filing for bankruptcy because nobody is flying and nobody's renting cars. They're all staying home, so they are filing for bankruptcy. Pluto's weird atmosphere is collapsing, or is it? This is the first of two stories where you get a little bit of clickbait. In this case, Pluto's atmosphere is collapsing. But then when you go further into reading the article, it's not nearly as bad as you think it is. Now, Pluto's an interesting place, and it absolutely should be a planet. That's my opinion anyway. When we had the flyby in 2015, we saw the first actual pictures of Pluto, and it is fascinating. And they've discovered all kinds of things, including that Pluto has an atmosphere. Now, but they've also discovered it's because Pluto's orbit around the sun is like, their year is like 248 Earth years. So one rotation around the sun, 1 year on Pluto, is like almost triple your life. So just think about that. I'm 40, I'm going to be 47 years old this year. 47. Pluto has 201 more years to rotate the sun before their year in my lifetime. It's already rotated for 47 years. It takes 248 years for it to rotate around the sun. So a year on Pluto is 248 years on Earth. So as I said, we're only at year 47 on Pluto's rotation around the sun. It's not going to complete its rotation for 201 years, which puts it at, let's see, 20 plus 201 is 122 is 2221 is when Pluto, if it started its rotation on the day I was born, in 2221, it will finish its first rotation around the sun in my lifetime. As I said, almost triple my lifetime. So, but basically, even though it's way far out there, the sun is still fairly powerful, even in its inactive phase it's in right now. So that when Pluto is facing the sun on its orbit around it, it causes a reaction on the surface where it starts melting some of the ice. Not entirely all, because it's an ice world, but it'll release some of that, and so it'll release some of the gas into the air, and it makes the atmosphere be thick and full. And then when it starts going around the side where it's cold and it's not getting the heat, the atmosphere breaks apart and dissipates back down to the Earth. So there's very minimal atmosphere. Now, the reason why they're saying that is the atmosphere collapsing is because usually it's about a 1 to 2% change in the atmosphere from hot to cold. So it's not a really it's a change, but it's not a humongous change. Well, they've been noticing that it's recently been about 20% change in the atmosphere, meaning that it's in its cold phase right now, and that 20% of the atmosphere is now dissipating instead of the usual 1 to 2. But again, they say they don't know if that's entirely what's going to happen. Maybe it's dropping that dramatically because of its location and its rotation, and that once it gets back a little bit closer to the sun or gets a little bit more of the heat in there, it's not going to be as much of a dissipation. It might be like at its coldest point in the its orbit around the sun, which is causing the atmosphere to drop as much as it did. So again, they're like, "Oh my God, its atmosphere is dropping." It is, but it does it all the time. It's just the percentage is a little more off than usual. So that's what they're going to keep an eye on. And that could be any manner of things. That was the one big story that not as big as this one was. This one got a lot of people's attention, including my own. And I started reading more about it and discovered something about it. So basically, this headline came out earlier this week. NASA scientists find evidence of a parallel universe where time runs backward in Antarctica. So you got everything with that. You got parallel universe, timing run backwards, and Antarctica, which are all crazy, insane places and ideas, and everyone's imagination went wild. Oh my God, parallel dimensions exist and this time's going backwards. And I discussed it also that if it is actually happening, their time's going backwards, our time is going forward. So eventually it's going to come to a point where they're going to intersect. And when that happens, you better watch out. Something's going to happen. So everyone's freaking out about that, and it's above the air in Antarctica, stuff like that. So, I've been seeing different news articles, not just like the supernatural ones that I follow, but like the science ones are starting to talk about it more. Then there was a couple of science ones that all of a sudden said there isn't a real alternate reality over Antarctica where time runs backwards. That's not a true story. That was the clickbait. So I was like, okay, well, let's find out what they believe. So I clicked on the headline, and they're like, you've been hearing that there's been a alternate dimension, a parallel universe where time runs backwards over Antarctica. Well, that might be possible, but we don't know for sure. So the headline's like, no, it's not. But the article itself is like, well, it could be, because what's going on is Antarctica is doing some sort of neutrino examination where they have a balloon up in the atmosphere and it's measuring the neutrinos when it hits the balloon. It's a science thing. I don't understand it completely, but I get the gist of it. Basically what they're saying is, so in their observations of it, they have noticed that the neutrinos are acting in a very anti-physics way, in a physics way that has never before been seen on Earth before. A new type of physics, as it were, is at work up there, with the neutrinos slowing down and going backwards through time, or going backwards, or slowing down and are going backwards from when they're supposed to go. Hence, that's where they discovered a parallel universe where time goes backwards. What they're saying is that is a potential thing that it could be, but they're stating that that's all like science fiction sort of stuff. What's actually going on in science, we can't tell you, because it's a style of physics that we don't know anything about. New stuff is being discovered all the time. So it lends itself to believe that we don't know everything about physics. So they do not understand why the neutrinos are acting this way. And one of the postulations, as I said, was that maybe it's an actual parallel dimension above the Earth where time is running backwards. And that might explain why the neutrinos are doing what they're doing. It's a possibility. That's the thing. But you could say then that those articles are clickbait also, because they were saying that's what actually happened. You throw NASA in there, you put parallel dimensions, you have time running backwards, you put Antarctica in there. It becomes a huge viral story, and people don't really read the article too much. Or if they read the article, they leave out the part that it's a possibility that this is what is causing the neutrinos to act the way they are. But what the scientists are saying that they do not understand what is going on with these neutrinos above Antarctica. They are acting against the known physics of the world. This way the neutrinos are acting is against all the physics they know in the world right now. So they have no explanation about what it is. But they also could say that we just need to study it a bit more. It could be a new type of physics that we don't know about. So the story was so big that I put it twice on my list. So that's what's going on with that. Star Wars beer taps. You go to a bar and you have your kegs and stuff like that, and you have the beer taps. They now have Star Wars ones you can put on there, Yoda and Darth Vader and stuff like that. So if you have a bar in your basement and you're a Star Wars fan, hey, go for it. Unicorn rainbow unicorn is peach bubble gum. Someone posed as Bigfoot in these $999,000 house listings. Now, someone did this earlier. They were the Scream serial killer from Scream, where he popped up in every room. When you are looking for a house, you go into a website that's selling houses, and it shows you a photo gallery of the house. You can say, okay, this is the living room. So it's like, oh, this is kind of cool, and you can start looking like, well, I can put this there and that there and so on and so forth. And it gives you a chance to see what the house looks like without actually having to go visit it. And then if you like how it looks, then you go and you visit it and look at it in person. But recently, a lot of real estate people, to make it more interesting, they've been adding costumes, stuff like that. As I said, the guy who originally started was dressed up as the Scream killer. He'd pop in through the windows or be in the closet when the picture was taken and stuff like that. So, it was just kind of funny. Now there's one where somebody's dressed up as Bigfoot in all the different rooms, stuff like that. Coincidentally, actually, this is something that isn't on my list, but I thought it was kind of interesting. My cousin, who lives out in Oregon, I think, is actually going to be moving to Boise, Idaho, which is one of the places that I've been wanting to visit for a while. So if he does end up, I think that's one of the places he said he's going to be moving. If they end up going there, I might actually have to have a reason to go out and see him, because I've been dying to see Boise, Idaho. I don't know why. I just like how it looks. Should we get to the weird stories? Not yet. Watermelon hard cider is coming from Austin East Ciders. It's summertime. Watermelon lemonade, watermelon cider is going to be a big thing. Hard cider is a big thing. A friend of mine who usually doesn't drink has been drinking a lot of hard cider, which is cool. I think it's great. Keep it up, man. We'll drink once we get back together, working together. We'll sit down. We'll have a drink together and have some hard cider during the summer, hopefully. But that sounds interesting. Watermelon hard cider could be interesting. But watermelon is a quintessential summer fruit and drink, stuff like that. Watermelon lemonade is actually pretty good. I've had it before. It's kind of interesting tasting. So this could be pretty interesting, but it's out there, and it's from the Austin East Ciders company. The Cleveland Browns have a very interesting fundraiser for COVID-19 relief, and I find it absolutely awesome that they're doing this. So what they're doing is they're doing an auction. They're auctioning off, your typical stuff, game-worn jerseys and shoes and football signed by the team and helmets and all kinds of stuff. So they're trying to make money for COVID-19 relief, which is great, But one of the things that they're going to be doing for this auction is, and I will guarantee you, because the Cleveland Browns fans are huge, humongous football fans, and they love their football in Cleveland. And the big prize in the fundraiser that Browns are throwing for COVID-19 relief is the highest bidder for this item will win a chance to call the first 15 plays in a regular season game. Think about that. You pay $500,000 to win this auction. That money goes to COVID-19 relief. It helps people who are affected by COVID-19. And the Browns, to show their happiness and congratulations for it, they call you out and say, okay, we're going to have you come out onto the field on our October 15th football game against the Baltimore Ravens. Let's just say, I don't know when they actually are playing. I don't think it's that late in the year. And you are going to call the 15 first plays. I think both offense and defense. So if they win the flip and they decide to go defense, he will call all the defensive plays until they flip and get the offense back. So let's just say they do a 3-and-out against the Ravens. So he called 3 plays. 4 plays technically. Well, no, 3 plays because fourth is just, it's a kickoff, so you're just going to do. So he calls 3 plays, and they worked. Like, cool. So then they're on offense now, and he calls the plays for his quarterback to throw and run and stuff like that. And let's just say he's able to call maybe like 8 of those, and they score a touchdown. Let's just say that. That's 11 plays he gets to call. So then they're back on defense. He gets to call 4 more defensive plays. Or if he calls another 3-and-out, he gets 1 more offensive play. I think that's kind of cool. And then they'll let the coaches. I think that's really cool. Now, it could totally backfire because they could be like, throw a Hail Mary. And they'll be like, oh, God, fine. Hail Mary, and it's intercepted. But the thing is, Browns fans are not stupid. They're not going to do that. They will call, we'll call a running player, we'll call a passing player, or a switch or a slide or whatever, or give to the tight end or whatever. I don't know. I think it's a neat idea. And it's going to be worth a lot. So good luck for them. The first of many Starbucks stories today. The Mango Dragon Fruit Starbucks Refresher is coming back to Starbucks this summer. So if you like mango dragon fruit and you're like those kind of refresher sort of drinks, hey, they're coming back to Starbucks. Because June 1st, meteorological summer, June 20th, first day of summer. You got to flip that switch to summer now. It's coming. This is basically the first weekend of summer. So we get to the really disgusting part of the show. Well, 2 stories. Man, I'm got a lot more to go, so I get moving. Oh my God, I got 3 full pages to go. A Louisiana teacher is sued for feeding her students cupcakes with her husband's semen in them. And also, she's been showing some of her sexy pics to them as well. Semen cupcakes was something I never thought I would ever hear. Welcome to America 2020. Louisiana, come on, man, that's disgusting. Here's something we haven't had in a while. Sex with animals. We used to have a whole bunch of those last year. We had there's like a period where there was like a sex with animals story once for a whole month. How about this one? A Delaware man, localer. I mean, Maryland, Delaware's right next door to us. A Delaware man has been filmed having sex with ponies. Pony style. Okay. Weird. We're going to go from weird sex with animals to deaths. There it is. There's a great giant typhoon. Deaths this week. First up, we have this week, as a lot of young people, unfortunately, have passed away this week. Hannah Kimura, a wrestler and a Terrace House star, which I guess is a reality show on Netflix. She died at the age of 22. Could be possible suicide. Her reason of death hasn't showed up yet. The Miss Universe contestant Amber Lee Frills died suddenly at the age of 23. Jerry Sloan, the Utah Jazz and Hall of Fame basketball coach, dies at the age of 78 due to Parkinson's. Wilson Roosevelt, German, a White House butler who's worked the job for 50 plus years, if not more than that, died at the age of 91 of COVID-19. Franklin Driffer, a cameraman Cameroon pastor who claimed that he could heal people of COVID-19 just by touching them has died of COVID-19 at the age of 39. I don't want to say irony because someone's dead, but still, what can I say? Ken Nightingale, Star Wars boom operator, who's known affectionately as the Pink Shorts Star Wars boom operator. There was a picture taking of behind the scenes of one of the scenes in the desert of Tatooine filming Star Wars, and the guy with the boom mic had these garish pink shorts on. This is the guy. He died at the age of 92. Chris Uppercut, Star Wars New Hope publicist, died at the age of 80. So 2 Star Wars workers died. Gregory Tyrone Boyce, a Twilight actor, and his girlfriend died. He died at the age of 30. John Mahan, a character actor who was in The Exorcist and LA Confidential, died at the age of 82. Shad Gaspard, a World Wrestling WWE star, was found dead. He was missing last week. They found his dead body in the water. Annie Glenn, John Glenn's widow, died at the age of 100 due to COVID-19. Ken Osmond, who played Eddie Haskell on Leave It to Beaver, died at the age of 76 this week. Kumiko Okai, who was the voice of Officer Jenny from Pokemon, died of COVID-19 this week as well. Gene Silva, character actor in Scarface and other films, dead at the age of 72. And Michael McCauley, Chicago Bears executive, died this week as well. So some not as big as last week, but Eddie Haskell passed away, and some really young people passed away, and John Glenn's widow passed away. A couple of people died from COVID-19. The White House butler, who's been working for years there, died of COVID-19 because those morons are all infected and they don't care who they get in trouble. But that's besides the point. Getting back to Starbucks. Starbucks is selling color-changing cup with a rainbow straw for summer. Target also has incandescent cups that they will be selling as well. I know that's around here somewhere. Target sells incandescent drinkware. So that seems to be the new trend this year during the summer. Starbucks is also going to be releasing their pink guava passion fruit drink to go along with the mango dragon fruit drink we just talked about. And they're also going to be releasing their marshmallow-filled s'mores frappuccino, which is more along the lines of what Starbucks should be known for as their coffee stop for summer as well. So marshmallows-filled s'mores coffee drink sounds excellent. So I might have to try that one. That might be pretty good about that. There's also, in the liquor world, there is the cinnamon roll fireball shot. Is a new thing now. The banana pudding shot is another new thing out there now. And rainbow sangria, just in time for summer as well, is out this summer as well. So big alcohol drinks coming and going there. Now, everyone heard that bats were the cause of the COVID-19 outbreak. Well, now there's a proof in where is it? I didn't say. It didn't say where. It's a foreign country, I think, like Sweden or Switzerland or something like that. A mink may have infected a human with COVID-19. So now the minks, wild animals, are supposedly carrying COVID-19 now as well. He did not eat the mink. The mink somehow, I guess, bit him and transmitted it that way. An Australian veterinarian catches something that has never been seen before, a golden possum. Which I did not know existed, but apparently they do. And Australia, of course, of all places, would have them. Let's see what else. Anything other animal related? Nope, that's about it. Now some crazy stuff. World record. That's right. World record internet speed has been reached. It's 1 million times faster than broadband. So someone actually was able to create internet speed that's 1 million times faster than your typical broadband that you have. And that is a game changer. That's insane that something like that could happen. We just talked about the deaths from COVID-19 and that minks have been giving COVID-19 people. Well, Patrick Ewing, Hall of Fame basketball player and now coach of Georgetown University, has been infected with COVID-19. So we wish him a safe recovery and hopefully he'll be okay. Joe Flacco, former Ravens quarterback, and then went to the Denver Broncos where he got injured and replaced, has now signed a one-year deal with the New York Jets, which is basically Baltimore North, with a number of Ravens coaches and players playing for the Jets. So he'll get a chance, probably be a backup up there, but at least he has a job, and good for Joe. I like Joe. 70% of moviegoers would rather watch movies at home. I talked about this a couple weeks ago with the whole Universal AMC debacle. We'll see how this actually plays out. Personally, I'd like to go to movie theaters, and that's one of the things I actually miss about this whole quarantine is, I'm such a big fan of movies that and this is no big secret. People I work with know this. I take vacation days to go see movies, particularly ones I want to see. Like I was going to take off May 1st to see Black Widow. In a regular world, I wouldn't have been laid off, and I would have had a vacation day on May 1st to watch Black Widow. So now we'll have to see what happens. If hopefully I get rehired, and if I do, I'm going to, and I have all my vacations like that, I might take a vacation day November 8th when Black Widow is actually released. So we'll see what happens with that. But I personally, I'd rather go to the movie. I like to go to the movie theaters to see it. But at the same time, as I talked about in the Universal story a couple weeks ago, I understand where people are coming from, wanting to watch movies at their home. It's a lot easier to do stuff, I guess. And it's not as distracting and doesn't cost as much money. Japan may pay half of your next trip to Japan to boost tourism. So if you want to go to Japan, Japan may pay half of your trip to get you to come over to Japan, spend money there. Edward Scissorhands, Stephen King, Funko Pops have been are going to be released, have been shown, and they look pretty interesting. More than 500 earthquakes have hit Area 51 in the last 7 days. We talked about one last week. Well, I didn't know there's going to be a whole bunch of them hitting it. So something major might be going down at Area 51 right now. We just won't know about it. Wouldn't be surprised. It is 2020 after all. Also, giant tectonic plates under the Indian Ocean is being broken in two. But no worries. It's going to take forever for that to actually break in two. So nothing to worry about. The XFL might be coming back. They declared bankruptcy, but a lot of people are starting to speculate that might have been a ploy to reorganize under the bankruptcy. And there's signs that McMahon, who is the guy who runs the WWE and stuff like that, and is running the XFL, has been consolidating his money to get it together and reopen the XFL. So that might be coming back next year once things settle down a little bit. So that's to be continued. Scooby-Doo Clue, which is a obvious clue that has never been released until now, is now out. Hey, 15 men to compete to impregnate a 41-year-old woman in Labor of Love, a new reality show coming this fall to ABC. And that's how they described it. 15 men competing to impregnate a 41-year-old woman. That's dangerous. Any woman over the age of 40 is, you can still get pregnant, but it's a very dangerous way to get pregnant. And now to have 15 complete strangers who are just trying to have sex with you and get you pregnant. Are they going to be part of the family? Are they going to be a father, or you just need the semen to get it? I don't know. It's the second time I've said semen today. A woman is traumatized by her boyfriend who sits on the toilet to poop like Gollum does. So he stands up literally on the toilet seat and poops, not sitting on the seat, but into the seat, if you know what I'm saying. Man shoots an impressive UFO during a live broadcast in Mexico. So a reporter was, doing an interview or something like that, and the cameraman is, filming him, and then he looks up in the sky, sees some weird lights, and he's able to get it into the shot, and it is actually a very impressive looking UFO, something you don't normally see, stuff like that. So When I wrote this down, I thought I'd seen this one before, but here it is again. A Texas man, age 82, is charged with killing a 65-year-old secret lover in an S&M game gone wrong. Now, I know there was one where there was someone was shot during an S&M sex game sort of thing with guns. That was from a couple of years ago. I don't know if this is the same one, but it was in my news feed this week, so we'll just say that it's something completely different. Scientists discovered that light speed is actually slower than we thought. They have proof that it's not as fast as we thought it was. So all these hyperspace and light speed things are really more like ludicrous speed. So, which actually is a stupid reference because ludicrous speed is actually faster than light speed, but that's besides the point. An alligator was spotted swimming around in the inner harbor. That could be part due to the fact that we've had this quarantine and the water's a little bit more cleaner than usual, and the alligator found its way down there. Llama antibiotics neutralize the virus that causes COVID-19. So that might be something that might help out with a COVID-19 vaccine coming soon, hopefully. Nurse tries to cheer up patients by visiting them in her underwear. So basically a female nurse just wears nothing but a bra and panties and a clear coat thing and a face mask, stuff like that, so she doesn't get the COVID-19, but you can see straight through that she's just wearing a bra and panties. That's it. She thought it would be a good way to cheer people up, and maybe it is. We'll see. Speaking of that, Victoria's Secret to close 250 stores. Bed Bath & Beyond is closing 50 stores, and Pier 1 will be closing 540 stores. So the recession is hitting everybody. COVID-19 is hitting everybody. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Someone threw a $10,000 grand piano into a trash can after it doesn't work anymore or whatever, or they just figured that they couldn't repair it and just took the $10,000 grand piano and just threw it in the dumpster, which is absolutely ridiculous. New York City Park uses social distancing to keep people separated. They draw circles in the grass, and you say you have to sit here, and they're all about 6 feet away from each other. Amazon destroys the MGM Culver City lot, which is a place where a lot of movies were filmed, and I guess they are destroying it because they're going to build a plant or something there, which is a shame. That's a lot of movie history. Granted, no one really uses backlots anymore, but still, it's a shame that something like that happened. A Star Wars fan receives an excessive $750 fine from a police officer for a Stormtrooper sticker on their car. That's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what is going on about that. Peter Dinklage and Jason Momoa to star in a vampire thriller called The Good, the Bad, and the Undead. Could be interesting. They worked together in Game of Thrones, and now they're working together in this film. They also have shown interest in maybe doing a twins reboot and having the two of them be twins. I think that'd be a really cool idea. $300 million doorknob was discovered in coal. So someone's digging their coal or whatever, and they dig their coal and it breaks apart, and they discover a 300-year-old doorknob in it. Crazy, man. That's all kinds of weird stuff going on. This could be a glitch or something they don't understand, but Google Earth has discovered a lot of weird things before. This could be the weirdest thing. Apparently, a bunch of Reddit people have noticed on Google Earth that there appears to be an ancient underwater wall that circles the entire planet. Now, the pictures they showed, again, this seemed more like a clickbait thing. They didn't really show a wall. It just seemed like a weird sort of shadow. Could be a ridge because we know there are mountains in the water. But an underwater wall that encircles the planet is a fascinating idea. And I guess we'll find out more about that in the end. Steve Carell and Netflix are teaming up to do Space Force, a TV show about the horrible new military branch that is unnecessary. when they should have put that money towards a pandemic team, but that's besides the point. But Steve Carell will be starring in the role as the Space Force chief. Well, somebody decided to tape a picture of Steve Carell in his Space Force uniform over the actual top officer of Space Force at the United States Air Force Museum. So good on that, on whoever did that. Giant desert pit has been on fire for 50 years. They call it the pit to hell. And it's been on fire for 50 years, so no one really knows what it is. It's probably a gateway to the middle of the earth where there is massive heat and flames and stuff like that. California to issue film and TV production guides on Monday. So we'll find out how Hollywood is going to reopen on Monday and how TV and movies are going to start getting their films and TV shows made and done, and also finishing touches on season finales and stuff like that. So we'll find out more about that. IDW, the comic book company, has fired a number of employees. A lot of comic companies are doing that. But in this case, a lot of it seems to be that could very well be a more permanent and not a temporary firing. So it's a shame. IDW was one of the accounts that I worked with when I was a brand manager at Diamond back in the early part of 2000. So it's a shame that it comes to this. But stuff like that happens. Astronomers. Oh, yeah. Astronomers discover a surprisingly shaped galaxy in the center of the universe. It's not something they've ever seen before, and it is quite odd, and they're not quite sure how it was formed, but there it is. A man kidnapped as a toddler was returned to his parents after 32 years. That's always a good story when that happens, but it must be really weird to see the parents that you haven't seen for 32 years and they haven't seen you, except for when you were a kid. That's crazy. I love myself some Charlize Theron, and she is going to be in a new Netflix film called The Old Guard, which is based on a comic book written by Greg Rucka about immortal soldiers. And so the first trailer for that came out this week, and it looks exactly like I expected to. And Charlize Theron looks like kick-ass awesome. So excited for that. Comes out July 12th, I think. So that'll be one I'm going to put on my calendar, and we'll definitely stream that. I still might check out the Chris Hemsworth one as well. I've heard some good things about that. We'll see about that as well. Starbucks isn't the only one getting involved into the summer drink wars. Taco Bell's tie-dye freezers and the pineapple whips are coming out for this summer coming up. So if you want some tie-dye freezers, go for it. McDonald's always does summer slushies. This year, they are going to be doing a Minute Maid pink lemonade slushie. So you'll be able to get your pink lemonade slushies at McDonald's. Have seen a rise in... houses have seen a rise in paranormal activity since the quarantine. Lots of people being together, and the anxiety and stuff like that has, I guess, unearthed a lot of paranormal stuff that people weren't expecting. So it's been coming up about that. Rooney Mara, who was the actress who was in The Martian and a few other things as well, is pregnant with Joaquin Phoenix's child. So good for them. Hooray. The Lord of the Rings rubber duckies are a thing. It's the entire fellowship, but in rubber ducky form. They have costumes and everything. Looks pretty interesting. An F-35 plane crashes at a Florida Air Force base. It was one of the ones flying overhead to, get heroes. Hey, like the Blue Angels came through Baltimore. It's like, hey, look, we're celebrating you by flying over you when you can't see us because you're working. But that's besides the point. But it was bound to happen eventually. But an airplane did crash during one of those flights. So that happened in Florida. It also happened in Canada, where they were doing the same thing. Canadian Air Force plane crashes in a house after a flyover for these COVID-19 heroes as well. So that's kind of rough. So hopefully, that won't happen anymore. Speaking of Canada, they have something called the Wine Ninjas, which is from the province of Alberta. They're actually grown women who are playing boozy ding dong ditch, where they go to houses dressed as ninjas, I guess, drop off wine and ring the doorbell and run away so people see a bottle of wine at their house. I guess it's pretty cool. This seems interesting. So my kids and probably your kids and stuff like that are dealing with virtual learning right now with schools being shut down. So my son meets with his teacher every day and they go over classes. My daughter every Tuesday does a full day of school, goes to all of her classes that day and spends the about an hour in each class doing work and getting taught and stuff like that. This is the wave of the future. Well, Rhode Island is one of those states that's doing this as well. And they're coming up with an idea which on the surface sounds like a good idea, but it's going to destroy something that kids will always look forward to. So Rhode Island is undergoing what we're going also, so they're going to have virtual learning and stuff like that. So the school board has decided that maybe they might consider, once COVID-19 runs its course or whatever, we can reopen the schools and kids can go back to schools and learning in the actual schools, that when a snow day happens where a massive snowstorm hits, and Rhode Island gets hit a lot because they're up north. A big enough snowstorm hits that they have to shut down school. Instead of using up snow days, because we know the issues with snow days is you need to have a certain amount of education in your school day, or school year, I should say, and they put snow days in there. But if you max out your snow days, the days get added in the summertime, or you cut out holidays that normally you would have off. But Rhode Island's idea is, if we have a snow day, instead of having a day off of school, like the kids love to do, play in the snow, drink hot chocolate, watch movies, just have a great grand old time, because that's what I did when I had a snow day, and my kids have been doing so they've had a snow day. Why don't we reopen virtual learning and actually do a school day? But since you can't leave your house because of the roads and the snow, you can do it from your computer. I guess on the surface, that makes a lot of sense. If you get a blizzard, particularly because a blizzard up here in Maryland, when a blizzard hits here, schools close for a whole week, so that the kids don't lose any time and they get, to graduate on the right time at the end in June, and you don't have snow days and you don't have days that on, you don't lose other holidays. It makes sense. So when you have a snow day, instead of going to school, you go to your computer and your teachers will come online and they will do their lessons they originally had planned for that day via virtual learning. We'll see if that sticks. It's an interesting idea, and we'll see if that happens. There are two major 40-year-old anniversaries this week. The anniversary of Mount St. Helens eruption happened earlier this week, and then The Empire Strikes Back was released 40 years ago this week as well. So two major events in 1980 came out this week. Samuel L. Jackson is no longer the world's most foul-mouthed actor. He is now number 3 behind Jonah Hill and Leo DiCaprio. That's mostly due to The Wolf of Wall Street, but they've, when you add everything they've done, The Wolf of Wall Street, to all the other movies they've done where they said the F word, they have now outpaced Samuel L. Jackson, who's now 3rd behind Jonah Hill and Leonardo DiCaprio. Local news, Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum that we have at the Inner Harbor will be closing this year, will not be reopening, will be closing this year. So that's going to leave another major opening at the Inner Harbor Place that needs to be taken care of. Giant hammerhead shark is filmed hunting a blacktip shark. This sucker was huge, bigger than any hammerhead shark I've ever seen, compared to the blacktip, which is a lot smaller. But I don't believe it's fake. I believe it's true. 2 huge blobs in the Earth's mantle are fighting over superiority on the magnetic pole. If one of the blobs wins, we will have a pole shift, which is something that's been rumored to be about. But for now, the one that causes pole shift is now losing to this other blob. That's how they described it. McDonald's to end public soda dispensary due to COVID-19, where you'd be able to get your own sodas. From there, they're not going to allow that anymore because of the COVID-19 and the spreading of the COVID-19, stuff like that, through the soda machines. They're not going to allow that anymore. Jessica Alba talked about Charlize Theron and Chris Hemsworth doing Netflix movies. Well, Jessica Alba will be doing an action thriller on Netflix as well. So she's got that coming up. My least favorite director of all time, Michael Bay, is going to be producing a pandemic movie that will be filmed in the next few weeks. Bleh, I'm not that interested in that. Rabbits are facing their own viral outbreak, nothing to do with COVID-19, but they are suffering from a virus, according to scientists as well. So that's interesting. Baby Nigerian goat was stolen from a home here in Baltimore as well. Who steals a baby goat? Doesn't make any sense. Drake Hotel fire survivor is reunited with his coin and compa collection that was recovered from the rubble. It was a fire in this Drake, wherever, I don't know where this place is, Drake Hotel, and this guy had his collection of comics and coins with him. I guess it was a convention he was at, something like that, and he thought that it got burned down in the fire, but turns out that they survived, and that's awesome. So good on that. There is going to be a David Bowie Barbie doll where he's dressed as Ziggy Stardust. So I don't know how that's going to be, but hey, you know, it's a Barbie doll and you love your David Bowie. So there you go. A Long Island man kills his father, stabs him to death while his father was on a Zoom call in front of plenty of witnesses. And he tried to wash off the blood with Dr. Pepper. Now, it must be kind of weird doing a Zoom call and all of a sudden someone comes in and kills somebody on camera. It's like a horror film. So that was an awful sort of story. I have another creepy story like that. West Virginia man gouges out an elderly neighbor's eyes and threatens to, and then kills him due to a noisy rooster. Man, people are just losing their shit, aren't they? You kill somebody because of a noisy rooster, there's something seriously wrong with your ass. The fact you live in West Virginia is besides the point, but still. Damn. A Waffle House person who wanted to go to Waffle House was turned away because he wasn't wearing a mask. So the guy comes back and shoots up the place. Again, what the fuck is wrong with people? It's fucked up, man. Fuck you. I hope you get persecuted to the length of the wall, you asshole. The new Tom Hanks film Greyhound is going to go direct to video streaming. As is Bill and Ted 3. It looks like it's going to be going straight to streaming as well. So look for those to be coming up very soon. So we'll see what happens. A new Scream movie, is it coming? Nev Campbell has been in talks with it, and David Arquette has signed on. So we'll see what's going to happen with that. Jamie Lee Curtis has signed a deal with Blumhouse Pictures to produce and direct and star in films. So she'll be doing a bunch of stuff for that. A driver puts his Tesla on autopilot and goes to sleep. And while that's happening, the Tesla goes 75 miles per hour on a California highway. So the dude is asleep, puts the car on autopilot, and lets it drive at 75 miles per hour on a highway. That's freaking dangerous. There's a colorful habitat that has been filmed underneath Antarctica. Really colorful plants and stuff like that in the waters underneath Antarctica. Plant-based bottles created by Coca-Cola will degrade within a year, so you can now drink your soda, your Coke soda, in a biodegradable plastic bottle, which will degrade within a year, made out of plants. Man slashes a couple with a machete, angry over quarantine. Again, people fucked up in the head. Woman marries her stepson. It's like a freaking porn, but you know, after divorcing his dad, so that's a little weird. A Detroit priest is blessing people with holy water that was being shot from a water gun. So if someone wants to get holy water sprayed on them, they drive up and the priest shoots them with a water gun filled with holy water. That's a pretty interesting way of doing things. The Globe Theatre, the Shakespeare's Globe Theatre over in England, is going to be facing permanent closure due to COVID-19. That's a freaking disaster. There's the Maryland bar with the inner tubes. Mom delivers identical quadruplets during the pandemic. So, people are still having babies during this time. There's not much you can do about that. The Tampa Bay Comic-Con is still a go in July, which is a disaster waiting to happen. They shut down San Diego, and instead they're going to have hundreds of thousands of people in a convention in Tampa Bay, and it just has terror written all over it and horror written all over it. So maybe, hopefully, they'll come to their senses, but I highly doubt it since it is Florida. A blooming solar system harnesses the sun, harnesses energy from the sun like a flower. So it is a solar paneled device that looks like a flower, and it sucks the energy from the sun like a flower does, and then converts it into energy through solar power. And the final story for today's episode 350 of Dylan Knows on May 23rd, 11:25 p.m. on a Saturday, is guy travels 600 miles for a haircut due to the quarantine before they opened up, like my area as well. There are people who really, really want a haircut. Dude traveled 600 miles to get a haircut. That's just, I'm at a loss. I have nothing else to say about that. So, thus ends another episode of Dylan Knows. Thank you for watching. Enjoy. This probably can post it too late because it's been taking a while to get uploaded to YouTube. So hopefully it won't be too bad tomorrow. Hey, and go out and enjoy your community day tomorrow for Pokemon fans. And we'll see you at the end of May. Enjoy your week, and we'll see what happens. Next week could be a little stressful because I got to discuss if I'm still going to get unemployment, because I put a date of June 1st as my return to work date, and that's coming up very quickly. So I know what I'll be doing this week. All right, y'all. Take care. Have a good day, and we'll see you soon. And be safe. Very safe. Bye.